Hi everyone, so today our top tips, we're going to talk about ferns, or the word asparagus, not now like as in your vegetable. But the thing about ferns is when you go to purchase them, they're nearly all called asparagus, but yet there's lots and lots of different varieties. They're probably the most popular one. This would be what I would class as typical asparagus fern. We often call it like lace fern here, or the climbing fern, or we often called it maidenhair fern here at the school. So this would be, I suppose you could call it maybe your typical old-fashioned fern. It's been around for years. It was always known as the fern to add to the back of buttonholes, especially carnation buttonholes when they did them years ago. Or again, if they were adding them into a wedding bouquet, this would probably be the fern that they used in their wedding bouquets. Now the thing is, like, you can use it for flower arranging as well. The only thing about it, it's extremely light, okay? That's why it's called the lace fern. So it's not great for coverage. Now if you use it with something else, it's perfect, but to use it completely on its own, it's probably not heavy enough. You can use it in your hand-tied bouquets, as in your presentation hand-tied bouquets, and again it gives a fabulous texture, you know, that way in your hand ties, but it's not enough of a filler. So if you're looking for something packing to bulk out your flowers to make it look a little bit larger, this is not going to do the job, but it will add a fabulous texture to your hand-tied bouquets. For your wedding bouquets, absolutely beautiful, whether to do a border around the outside of your wedding bouquet or to use it again as little foliage coming in between your hand-tied bouquets, again it would be beautiful. And what I love about it, I'm looking for a nice trailing one here, lots of trailing ones. Again, if you're looking for nice trails to come out of your wedding bouquet and you don't want it to look so formal, you know, like with a formal teardrop or a formal shower, and it's coming down into that triangle at the end, but just adding in like a loose stem of that to the back of a wedding bouquet, it can be beautiful. Or even people ask me about cascading wedding bouquets. Do you see the way you could have 3 or 4 trails coming down at the end of your wedding bouquet, and that would make a fabulous cascade. Again, each of them ferns could be wired individually and added to the back of your hand-tied bouquet. Or normally what here at the school we talk about using them in the guppy holder or the egg holder, and again because they have these nice skinny stems, it's brilliant to stick into your egg holder or your guppy holder. Now probably what I suggest is to invest in a stem stripper. You'll definitely need one because all the ferns have like a thorny stem. I clean down a lot of them, right? But what you'll need to do is with your stem stripper is just run it up and down. You can probably see the tops of the thorns there just kind of like popping off, and it just makes it nice and clean, nice and smooth. You can see there I can run my hand along it and I'm not going to get a thorn in it. Where when you go to use it in your guppy holder or your egg holder, if there's thorns still on it, it won't go in and then you can't take it back out again. But that's what we normally would suggest on our Module 3 course, is that they use it in the guppy holder. Now to show you other types of ferns, because when you're buying it, you can buy like what we call a mixed bunch, or again you can go on and you can just buy a Pacific bunch with all the one type in it. So as I said, when you're buying it online from the Dutch suppliers, they're all called asparagus. So you may have to actually look up the photograph to see the one that you need. So this one here we call Ming fern, and I love this one. And again, like for cascading flower arrangements, this is just beautiful. To have it trailing down out of your arches, your moon gates, your trailing garlands, your chandeliers, this is just amazing. But even in a wedding bouquet, like this is a fabulous trail there. Just to have that trailing down out of your wedding bouquet, and again you could make it kind of more cascading by having a couple of them. This is an exceptionally long one. It is sold in different lengths. We purposely, I think we bought in 95 centimetres, but probably 45 to 65 centimetres is a good length probably for you to buy in. But that would be an amazing one. Imagine for like a real traditional wedding dress with a long trail, this would look spectacular trailing down the front of the dress. Now again, make sure that you remove the thorns off it. And just one point, well I've loads of points to tell you, but you will find with ferns, if there's any white part at the end of the stem when you import it, it's like kind of part of the root, you will find it won't take up the water. So even though we say cut maybe 2 or 3 centimetres off the end of the stems, on a slant, they're only skinny stems anyway, but you will find if there's white on the end of the stem, it may mean removing 3 or 4 inches, 5 or 6 centimetres, take off whatever it needs to be taken off. Now with all ferns, they need lots and lots of water, and it's absolutely no harm at all to even dip your fern into your bucket of water and stand it back up the right way, because your hand will be killing you going along misting and spraying. It needs lots and lots of water. I always suggest to the students to go and purchase themselves an asparagus plant and maybe store it in their bathroom. It thrives on the steam and the moisture, especially if you have teenagers and they leave the shower running for hours. You'll find that the ferns thrive on that sort of kind of like atmosphere. You will find, like in shops or even in flower arrangements and that, like people will say about a shedding. When it starts to shed, that's a sign that it's drying out, so it needs lots of water. So if you're storing it in a bucket in your flower shop, cut it every 2 to 3 days, change the water every 3 to 4 days, and maybe keep flower food in the water. Now another variety that I have here would be this one here, basket asparagus, as it's often called, or like a feather asparagus. So again, it's a much kind of stronger one. It doesn't last out water as long as the other two would last, by the way. And if you find with any of the ferns that they start to go yellow on you, that's often a sign that the room is too dark. So maybe store it in a brighter room. Now, on its own as one stem, I know a light stem and a heavy stem here, but on its own as one stem, it's not great coverage. But again, if you double it up and you have, like, say, 2 stems together, you get quite good coverage. So you could use it for flower arranging. I would be thinking maybe like a long funeral spray, or a unity candle arrangement on an altar, or again like for larger arrangements. People always think with ferns that it's traditional and it's old-fashioned and it would suit maybe more traditional style arrangements, which they probably would. But I'd often use it in a modern arrangement when I'm looking kind of like for trails coming down out of it. You know, maybe to one side of a contemporary triangle arrangement to have ferns trailing down over one side, or maybe a linear or contemporary style, and you're just looking for something a little bit different. So again, with this basket asparagus, and as I said, maybe when you go onto the Dutch sites, it may not be called basket asparagus. You probably have to look at the photograph of it. This one doesn't last out water so long, so it's better off like using it in a hand-tied bouquet. It would be absolutely perfect. It's nice and bulky. Like I find with the lace fern, it's not bulky enough in your hand ties, you know, the way like for presentation, where again, that would be a great starting point. You know, when I talk about like your maypole when you're making your hand tied bouquets, that would be a fantastic one to start with, and again have a big stem of lilies standing up in the centre. So hopefully that's given you, there's another lovely trail, imagine that trailing down of a wedding bouquet. Hopefully that's given you a couple of tips there about different varieties of asparagus fern. If anybody has any questions at all, just place them in the comments below. I'll try and respond to everyone. And listen, the very best of luck. Lots of water, that's the secret, lots of water. Talk to you all very soon.